Bruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Samach Beis Amud Beis, 11 lines from the bottom. The Gemara quotes the Mishnah that a person cannot spit Chalila in the Har Habayis. Says that the Gemara, Rekika Mikal V'Chomer, we learn it from a Kal V'Chomer. Omar Rabibi, Omar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Kol HaRoikek B'Har Habayis Bizman Hazeh, Kilu Roikek Bas Einoi. A person who spits in the Har Bayis even after the Churban Beis Hamikdash, Bizmanenu, is considered as if he spit in the eye, Kavayachol of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenemar says, V'hayu einai v'libi shom kol hayomim. My eyes and my heart is there all of the days, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Omar Rava Rikika bebeis hakneses sharya midi dahava aminal. Rava learns that Rikika, if a person needs to spit in the Beis HaKnesses, he may do so, as we learn out from Minal. Ma Minal Bahar HaBayis Osir Bebeis HaKnesses Mutter. Af Rikika Bahar HaBayis Hudi Osir Beis HaKnesses Shori. Just like the Minal in the Har HaBayis it is Osir, but in the Beis HaKnesses it's Mutter to wear shoes. So too Rikika, although it's Osir in the Har HaBayis, it is Mutter to be done in the Beis HaKnesses. Omar le Rav Papa le Rava va'amrei lo Ravina le Rava va'amrei lo Rav Ada bar Masna le Rava Adi Yolif miminal neilaf mikapandria. Instead of learning out Rekika from Minal to say that it's permissible to spit if one needs to in a Beis HaKnesses, learn out that it's also from Kapandria. Rava's response is Amalei Tana Yolif Miminal Vat Amiz Mikapandria. The Tana learns out from Minal, and you're going to learn out from Kapandria, from the fact that it's osir to make a shortcut in the Beis HaKnesses. Maihi. Now ask the Gemara, what is the source? What is this Tana that he's referring to? That learns out from Minal. The Tanya, for it says in the following brayso, Lo yikanes adam lahar bayis, lo b'makloi, shebiyodoi, v'lo b'minal lo shebiragloi, v'lo b'mo'ois hatzurim lo b'sadinoi, u'b'pidosoi, muvsheles la'acharov, v'lo yaseh kepandrio, u'rekika mikal v'chomer miminal. And we learn it out from Minal, a kal v'chomer. U'ma minal she'ein boi derech bizoyon, just as Minhal, which is not a bizoyon, to wear one's shoes, and still it's also Amar Torah sham ne'elecha me'al raglecha. When you come to a holy place, in this case the Har HaBayis, you must take off your shoes. Rekika shehi derech bizoyon lo kol shekain. Rekika, which is a bizoyon, certainly that would be us in the Har HaBayis. The brayso continues. Rabbi Yosi bar Yehuda Omer eino tzorich. Harehu oimer ki ein lovoy el shar hamelech belvush sak. You can't come to the king's palace wearing sackcloth. Ve'alo dvarim kal v'chomer umas sak she'einoi ma'us lifnei basar v'dam koch. If this is so when it comes to wearing sackcloth, which is not considered to be disgusting before basar v'dam, and nonetheless it's osir because it's inappropriate garments. Rekika shi ma'usa lifnei melech malchei amlochim lo kol shekain. Spitting before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, certainly that should be osir. Al Kaponim, Rava learns out from this brayso that we see that Minal is used to teach us to Rekika. That the Minal is teaching us that you cannot go ahead and wear Minal Bahar Bayis, then kol shekain Rekika. So if that's so Rava says we should learn out Minal all the way, even when it comes to Beis HaKnesses. And since Minal is mutter in the Beis HaKnesses, so therefore Rekika is also mutter in the Beis HaKnesses. Says the Gemara, Amalei Ano Hochi Ka'amina. The response back to Rava is, I was saying the following: Neima Hocha L'chumra, V'Hocha L'chumra. Let's say both are L'chumra. That is, that the same way that Rekika is learned out from Minal, from Har HaBayis, that it's also, say too also Rekika is also as it's learned out from Kampandria in the Beis HaKnesses. As follows: Ve'ema Har HaBayis the osir b'minal lilfi miminal. When it comes to the Iser of wearing of Rakika in the Bahar Bais, we learn out from Minal. Aval Beis HaKnesses, the Shar b'Minal, Adiyolif b'Minal, Uleheter, Neilaf Mekapandria v'Le'eser. Instead of learning out from Minal, that like a Minal is mutter in the Beis HaKnesses, learn out from Kapandria, which is also the Beis HaKnesses, and therefore Rakika would be also Osir. El Omar Rava ki Beiso. Rava says it's like his own house. Ma Beiso ki Kapandria copied. Inish arakiko minalo copied inish. When it comes to a person's house, making a shortcut, the kapandria is osir. But because a person rather is makpid in his own house, he's makpid. But when it comes to rekika minal, he's not makpid. So too, af beis hakneses kapandria hudi osir rekiko minal shari. So too, he says, just like the kapandria is therefore going to be osir in the Beis HaKnesses as well, but Rikika and Minal should be mutter, just like it is in his own house. So it comes out from Rava that indeed the maskana is that a person cannot spit while he's davening Shmona Esrei. However, if he has no choice and he needs to spit during the rest of the time when he's in the Beis HaKnesses, then he can do so by covering up that area right away afterwards. Says the Gemara, quoting our Mishnah, Kol chois me brachos sheba mikdash. The procedure was that in the Beis HaMikdash, the one who would mevarich would not just say in his tefillah, Baruch atah Hashem choinin hadas, rather he would say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokei Yisrael, min ha'olam v'yad ha'olam, choinin hadas. And they wouldn't just answer Amen, but rather they would answer Baruch Shem Kevoid Malchusoy Le'olam Voed. Says the Gemara, Kol Kach Lama. So much Lama. Is this necessary that you have to answer Baruch Shem Kevoid Malchusoy Le'olam Voed and say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokei Yisrael Min Ha'olam Ad Olam? Lefi she'ein oinin Amen B'Mikdash. That's because you don't answer Amen the Mikdash, as the pasuk says. Uminayin she'en oinin amen b'mikdash shenemar kumu baruch es Hashem Elokeichem min ha'olam ad olam v'oimer yivarechu shem kevoidcha umeroimam al kol bracha utehila. It says in the pasuk, get up and bless Hashem your God from this world and the next. And then it goes on to say, and bless the name in your glory and exalt who's exalted on every bracha and every tehillah. The Brisa continues to explain, Yochol Ametin Kol HaBrachos Kulon Tehei Lahen Tila Achas. All of the brachas at the end, you can give one tehillah and say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Voed. Talmud Umurumam Al Kol Bracha Utehillah, teaching me Al Kol Bracha Tein Loi Tehillah. On every single bracha, you have to answer Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Voed. Now, why is that so? Why is Amen not sufficient? Because Amen is not enough when the Mevarich is saying the Shem HaMeforash. And therefore, one has to say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Voed, and not just once at the end of a set of brachos, but rather at the end of every bracha and bracha. Let's see Rashi together on the third line. Dibra Maschil Vayivorchu Shem Kevoidcha. Rashi says Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Voed Oinim. That's what they answer. As we explained. Now Rashi brings a Tosefta. Mefaresh b'Tosefta. Shetiknu min ha'olam v'yad ha'olam. Lohoidia she'ein ha'olam hazeh lifnei ha'olam habo. Klum. Ela keproizdar lifnei ha'traklin. This world is only a vestibule. It's a hallway to get to the main ballroom. That means this world is only a place that is a temporary designation until a person gets to the everlasting happiness of Olam Haba. Kloimar, and therefore, he explains, that means to tell you, Hinhigu birkoisa b'olam hazeh, kedei lios ragilin lo'olam haba shekulam oruch. That means that prepare yourself in this vestibule by making yourself accustomed to saying brachos. Not just saying the brachos, but how you say the brachos. To whom you're coming to thank, and on what you're coming to thank Hashem. And then when a person practices up in this world, he'll be zoiche to make his brachos in the next world forever and ever. Going back to our Gemara, quoting our Mishnah, Hiskinu shei adam shoyel b'shalom chaver. They're masakin that a person can use the Shem Hashem when asking a person's welfare. Says the Gemara, Mai ve'oimer. Why does it state in the Mishnah afterwards, ve'oimer? It supports what Boaz did and then brings a pasuk from Shoiftim. Why wasn't enough to say what Boaz did? Are you going to suggest, will you suggest that maybe Boaz did this only with his own das? If that's so, then I'll tell you, Toshma, Hashem imcho gibor hachayil. Therefore, it says ve'oimer to tell you that it was stated to Gideon that Gideon should not be concerned about waging war with Midian, and therefore the Malach said to him, Hashem imcha, Hashem will be with you. V'chitema, if you'll say Malach hu deka'amar le Gideon, maybe it was a Malach sent min hashamayim. That's different, and that's why he was able to invoke Hashem's name. Toshma. Therefore, we bring the pasuk al tavois ki zakna imecha. Do not scorn the elderly of your mother. That means to say the sages that made a takana. V'oimer, it says eis la'asos la Hashem. It's a time to act for Hashem. Heifeu tarasecha, annulling, voiding your Torah. And therefore, in this situation, they enacted to saying the Shem Hashem. It wasn't considered to be a bizayon to the Shem Hashem, but rather it was a kavod. It was necessary to invoke Hashem's name. And therefore, they did that in this situation. Omar Rava. Rava now says, Hai Kro, this pasuk that we just quoted, Eis La Hashem Hefeu Sarasecha, can be darshan mireisha l'seifa midrash, miseifa l'reisha midrash. It can be darshan from the beginning to the end of the verse, and also from the end of the verse to the beginning, as follows. Mireisha l'seifa midrash, as follows. Eis La Hashem Lasses La Hashem. It's a time to act for Hashem. My time, what's the reason? Mishum hefeiru sarasecha. The intention is that it's a time to act for Hashem, and therefore to punish the wrongdoers, because they are hefeiru sarasecha, because they went against your Torah. And also the opposite. Miseifa l'reisha midrash, from the end of the pasuk to the beginning. Hefeiru tarasecha, those who are oisei ritzoinoi, they do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they do His ratzon. So certain times they have to then also meifir Hashem's Torah. My time mishum eis la'asos la'Hashem, because they have to make gedorim and siogim in order to then set up boundaries, to set up fences for the honor of Hashem, and therefore they do that. They have to heifer tarasecha because of the honor of Hashem l'shem shomayim. Now the Gemara also brings a brayso to this effect based on this pasuk of Eis Lased Lashem Heifeu Tarasecha. Tanya says the brayso, Hillel hazakin oimer b'shas hamachnisin. At the time that there are those who are Gedolei Yisrael who are being machnisin, they're not teaching Torah b'rabim. So instead of them, the Gedolei Hador that are marbitzim Torah, and they're not doing so, then pazer, then you should go out and teach Torah. Bishas hamefazrim, the time that there are Gedolei Hador who are yes marbitzim Torah l'rabim, then kanes, then you yourself should not take a position of authority and teach Torah, but rather you should then be humbled. If you see a generation where the Torah is beloved to them, then pazer, then go out and teach Torah. Shenemar, it says yesh mefazer v'noisef oid, is actually going to be moisif. However, v'im ra'is dor she'ena Torah chaviva olav, if you see a generation that the Torah is not precious to them, it's not beloved, then kanes, it'll be then mevuze, and therefore you have to then kanes, you have to then enter your own Dalet Amos is not to then go out and teach the Torah in such a situation. Shneimar says, Eis lasif Lashem, heiferu sorasecho. And therefore, you have to meifir the Torah in this case by not teaching it. It shouldn't become that the Torah should be mevuzeh. Dorash bar kaporo, zolos kvoist, knei mino. If the schara is cheap, then he says, buy it, because it'll go up in value and you'll be able to sell it. It's a mashal to Torah, that even though others are not mechabev the Torah, but you yourself should learn the Torah while it's considered to be cheap, so to speak, because it will become valuable. Be'aser de les gvar, or gever, tamon have gever. When it's a time that there is no person who's a gever, then you should be a gever. That even though the Mishnah in Avos says, B'mokum she'ein ish, hishadad liyos ish, there it's talking about when it comes to tzarchei tzibur. But here, the Bar Kapor is teaching us that when a person is in a place where there is no gever to be mara halacha, then you should then step forward and be mara halacha, assuming that you're somebody who's capable. Omar Abai shmamina ba'asar de'is gever tamon lo tehe gever ba'asar de'is gever tamon lo tehe ba'asar de'is gever tamon lo tehe gever. But in a place where there is a gever, rather, then don't be a gever. Ask the Gemara Pshita, that's the corollary. Of course, when there's nobody to be a gever, then to be a gever. So why does Abaye add, when there is somebody to be a gever, then don't be a gever. Don't be somebody's mar halacha, if there's somebody who's already mar halacha. Says the Gemara Pshita, answers the Gemara lo nitzricha, ella b'sheshneim shavin. We're talking about when they are both equal, means he enters to a town where there's already a Talmid Chacham who's mar halacha. He's already being doresh berabim. For him, he should not go ahead and also doresh there because there's already somebody in place. Even though he's an equal, he would be a peer of his. Nonetheless, it's considered to be inappropriate in such a situation. The Gemara brings another drasha from Bar Kapara. Dorash Bar Kapara. Eizehi parsha kitana shekol gufei Torah tluyin ba. What is the small parsha that all of the ikarim of the Torah is dependent on? What is that small parsha that's in the Torah? He brings a pasuk from Mishlei. Bekol dirachecha da'ehu. In all of your ways you shall know HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'hu yashar archosecha. And he will make upright your paths. Omar Rava afilu lidvar aveira. Rava says, when it comes to certain situations, like we said, Eis lasem, lasid lashem, heifiru tarasecha, then even in dvar aveira, bechol dirachecha da'ehu. That means to say, like Eliyahu Navi in Har HaKarmel had to then bring a carbon, even though it was a time when it was used to bring a carbon on a bama, but in order to then do away with the Baal, the Avodah Zarah that he was fighting against, so that was a situation that even the Dvar Aveira, he had to then meifir terasecha, as the pasuk said, b'chol dirachecha da'ehu yishanu HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'hu yashar orchosecha. Another drasha by Bar Kapara, Darash Bar Kapara, la'olam yilmad adam es benoi, yilamid adam es benoi, umnus nekia v'kala. A person should always teach his son a trade that is clean, that means clean from gezel, and kala, and easy, so it doesn't take all of his time, so he can go ahead and put time into learning Hashem's Torah. Mahi, what would be an example of this? Omar Rav Chizda, mechato de talmiyusa. If he is stitching in the straight lines, that would be an example of a person who is sewing in this manner. It is easy, and it's also then clean. It doesn't provide a nisayon for gezel, and it also will then limit his time in this umnu so that he can have more free time to learn Torah. The Gemara brings a brayse to Tanya. Rabbi Oimer la'olam al yarbe odom reim b'soich beisoy. A person should not increase too many friends in his house, because it can bring to difficulty to fighting. Shenemar, as it says, ish reim lihisro'eya. And therefore, it's apt to have a lot of different disputes where there's a lot of friends that are entering the house one after the next. Tanya, the Gemara brings a brayso. Rabbi Omer, al yimna adam apitropus b'toich beisa. Similarly, a person should not bring a person who's an apitropus who's going to then take care of the household in his place. She'el mole loymina potifar es Yosef apitropus b'toich beisoi loybola oisa davar. If it wasn't for the fact that Potiphar brought Yosef to be an apitropus, then Yosef wouldn't have suffered from all of the difficulties that he had with Eshes Potiphar. Tanya, the Gemara quotes a brayso, also in the name of Rebbe. Rebbe Omer, Lama nismacha parshas Nazir leparshas Soite. Why does the Torah put first parshas Soite and then parshas Nazir in that order? What's the connection between these two things? Says the Gemara, Shekol haroyes Soite bekil kulo yazir atzmai min hayayin. If a person sees a sota woman, a woman who was warned by her husband not to be alone with a certain man, and nonetheless she disregarded his warning, and she was alone, and therefore she suspected that perhaps she was together with this man. Subsequently, she has to be fed to drink the waters, the sota waters. So that woman, in the event that she was liable, so then she will drink that water and she'll actually blow up. She'll actually her stomach will blow up, will swell up, and she'll die. So if a person sees that the outcome of such a situation can be brought about through wine, therefore he'll be yazir es atzma min hayayin. He'll be careful not to then drink wine because that can then result in niuf. Omar Chizkiya bered Ravi Parnach Amar Rabbi Yochanan Lama nismecha parshas Soita leparshas Trumois u'Maisrois. Why does Soita then come next to the parsha of Trumas and Maisrois? That first you have Soita and then afterwards to Trumas and Maisrois. What's the connection? Loimar loch, to teach you, Kol sheyesh lo Trumas and Maisrois ve'ino noisen lekohen. If a person is obligated in Trumas and Maisrois and he's too lazy, not because he wants to steal, but he's too lazy to go to the Kohen and bring him his Trumas and Maisrois, so soif nitzrach lekohen. At the end, he will need the kohen aidei ishto, through his own wife, by then testing her with the soita waters. Shenemar says v'ish es kedoishav loy yiyu v'samechlei ish kitiste ishto v'ksiv v'hevi ha'ish es ishto. He'll bring his own wife to the kohen who will test her with those waters. Not only that, but at the end he will need them because he'll himself become an ani by holding back the trumas and maisers from the kohen. Shneimar says v'ish es kedoishav loy yihiyu, that it'll be himself that he'll become an ani and he'll need meiser ani. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yisrach v'im nosnoi soif misash. On the other hand, if he will give trumas and maisers loyally, then he'll become at the end wealthy. Shneimar, it states, Ish asher yiten lekoin lo yiyeh. I'll just quote that pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'ish es kedoishav lo yiyu, ish asher yiten lekoin lo yiyeh." And therefore, lo yiyeh momon harbe. To him, he will have a lot of money of ashirus. Rav Huna bar Berechia mishum Rabbi Elazar hakapar kol hameshatif shem shamayim b'tzaroi. Anybody who includes HaKadosh Baruch Hu in his tsar by making the bracha Baruch Dayan HaEmes, or he's mevakesh rachamim in the state of his tsar, then it says, then koiflin loy parnasasoi, they double his parnasa, bringing a pasuk shneimar v'haya shakai b'tzorich v'kesef toyafos loch, and the word toyafos means coupled. It will be doubled. So his kesef will be doubled as a result of mentioning Hashem's name, Hashem together with him in his sorrows. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani Omar Parnasasoi mu'ufefes loy kitzipur. The word toyafos is darshan to mean it'll be without difficulty, just like a bird who flies around and has his parnasa without difficulty. So too, a person who's loyal and will mishatev HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name when he mentions in the Petoch Tsar Baruch Dayan HaEmes or Mevakesh Rachamim from Hashem in the Tsar, then he'll have parnasa easily. bringing this pasuk Shneimar v'kesef toyafos loch. Amar Rav Tavi, Amar Rav Yashaya, kol amar be'atzmoi medivrei Torah. Everybody who will then weaken himself in the words of Torah, ein boy koyach la'amoy b'yom tzar. He will not have the strength to stand in a difficult time. Shneimar says hisrapisa. The pasuk says when you're weakened by you're learning Torah. Then the pasuk goes on to b'yom tzar koichacha. In the day of your distress, you will not have strength. Rav Ami bar Masna Amar Shmuel v'afilu mitzvah achas. Not only Torah, but even one mitzvah. When you're weakened in that mitzvah, you will also become weakened in the day of distress. And as it says, hisrapisa mikol makom. You'll become weakened even in that one mitzvah. Then you will not be zoiche to have strength in a time of difficulty.